All right, hello guys. Today we're going to be getting into our weekly forecast for December 8th through December 15th. But before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this with your friends and family if they do enjoy content like this video. Now let's get right into things. First things first, we're going to be looking at last week's temperature forecast and then compare it to what actually happened. So take a mental note of this. Really warm temperatures over Montana, cold temperatures in New England, and then a little bit of cold there for Nevada and California. Let's go ahead and move on to what actually happened right now. All right, so as you can see, we did have those warm temperatures up there for Montana. I could have extended it more into North Dakota, but you know, it was still very close. Let me know what you thought. Hopefully you were able to take a mental memory of the first one. You can always go back and forth and relook at it, and then let me know what you think of the forecast last week. Now let's get into this week's precipitation forecast. We're going to get started with that right now. We're going to start out with our above normal precipitation regions, and you can see we have two areas of slightly above normal precipitation. One there for the East Coast, we look at multiple storms to be potentially impacting these regions. And then also one out there for the West, particularly some of those mountainous regions, but you know, it's kind of just some of those areas down there. A lot of the times we see the southern four corner states, and then Texas gets some above average precipitation quite easily because your average is really low. So it only takes a little bit of precipitation to put you guys above your average. And here we have a second layer of above average precipitation there for the East Coast, where again we have potential for more storms to come through. I'll talk about that in the special notes segment of this video at the end. Now we're about to get into our below average precipitation regions, where we're going to have quite dry conditions and not much going on for a lot of these regions. All right, here it is. You can see we do have two below normal precipitation regions, one there for Texas up through some of those central United States into Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis, Oklahoma City, Dallas. A lot of these regions experiencing slightly below normal precipitation, and also up there for Seattle and a lot of those other areas in Oregon and Washington, as well as very far northern Idaho and very far northwestern Montana. Let's add our second layer of below average precipitation, or second layers that is. You can see we have two different areas, one there for Washington and Oregon, a little tiny piece of those areas expecting to get into this medium shade of below average precipitation, and also out there for portions of Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Illinois, as well as a little bit of Kansas there as well. These areas is where it's going to be more noticeable. I always say this in every video where I use the layering method. In the second layers of all of these, this is where we expect more chance at below or above average precipitation, obviously, and this is where it will be more noticeable. In the first layers, it's on paper going to be above or below average, but it won't be quite as noticeable as that second shade. Now let's get into your super exciting temperature forecast here. As you can see, this is our above average temperature regions. You can see all of the western United States through a lot of the central United States going to be experiencing above normal temperatures, as well as a lot of the southeast there as well, for the mid-Atlantic coast down through the southeast and some of those Gulf states as well. Now we're about to get into our below average temperature regions, where you're going to be able to see where we could be expecting colder than normal conditions for a lot of the United States here. As you can see, we have two main areas of below average temperatures, one up there for the Dakotas, Montana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. And then we see some areas up there in New England as well going to be experiencing some slightly below average temperatures. But again, these first layers not really indicating areas where you will notice that it's going to be above or below normal, but on paper it certainly will be. But for the second shade of blue, however, this is where it will be far more noticeable, but it's a very small area there for North Dakota and Minnesota. Let me know if you live there. That'd be interesting. I don't know how many viewers I have within that region, but I probably do have a few. That's where we will be experiencing moderately below average temperatures for sure within those regions. Now let's get into your special note segment of the video. We have, for our first special note, the 8th through the 10th of December, we're expecting a Clipper system to come through. I already made a video on this, so you can go check that out if you'd like. We see some of the Rockies experiencing some snowfall with this one, and then down through the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, the snow is already starting for Montana, so I'm sure it's just going to continue for the next couple of days through the 10th. So the 8th through the 10th, we are experiencing some snowfall for these pink regions. For your second special note, we have brief snowfall expected for some of these areas. I know this is coming as quite the surprise for some of those Gulf states especially, but through some of the Appalachians, Smoky Mountains as well, and then up through the Mid-Atlantic and into coastal southern New England as well. We could be experiencing some brief snowfall. I probably am going to make tomorrow's video about this little system, but I think the bullseye will probably bring 4 or 5 inches to some of these regions, especially up there for the Northeast, particularly looking potential. But, you know, I don't really know how major this one will be. It's going to be very brief, and I think it's going to move through pretty quickly and not really impact too many regions with, too much snowfall. But certainly for some of those more southern regions, it is kind of surprising. Again, tomorrow's video probably going to be about this system. Now, I'm about to show a snowfall map from the NAM model for this potential upcoming snowstorm for the 10th through the 11th. So let's get right into that. As you can see, this is actually showing the most snow out of any of the models. This looks to have it as the most major, which is sort of a thing that the NAM typically does, and this certainly does not mean we will see this much snowfall. I just wanted to show the actual potential that this storm has if it were to overperform and what we're kind of dealing with here. The NAM came out and showed a lot of snow. In all of those purple shades, we are expecting anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of snow, and in all the pink shades or magenta shades, we're looking at 6 to even 12 inches of snow for some high elevation areas, getting closer to 10 potentially, but still just very, very major, surprisingly major actually. Definitely very, very interesting, and I can't wait to make a forecast on this one because this storm looks very untypical. It looks to just run along a cold front and not too much of like a traditional snowstorm type. It's just very, very interesting, and we don't often see storms like this one, and that's a lot of what makes me very interested in weather, is just how unique each system really is, especially ones like this. Now let's get into your third special note, which is going to be the chance of a snowstorm for the 12th through the 14th for a lot of these regions, the Mid-Atlantic and some of the Southeast even, all the way up through New England. In the Southeast, it looks like mostly the chance at sleet and freezing rain, but not even that high of a chance. The reason I say chance of a snowstorm with this one is because the chance is actually rather low. It's pretty far out, and the models cannot stay consistent with it. The GFS was showing it yesterday, and now it's not. Now the Canadian model's showing it, and the GFS isn't, so it's going back and forth. I just wanted to mention the potential for this storm because it could be something quite major for the Mid-Atlantic and New England if it was to live up to its full potential as a nor'easter for the eastern United States, and could be our second major snowstorm for the month of December for the eastern United States after our other winter storm. I think it was Winter Storm Ezekiel, which was very, very major. We could be dealing with a second major East Coast winter storm, which would be very, very interesting, and I'd love to see it happen, quite frankly, just to have something really intense to make videos about. I love just giant snowstorms, so we'll have to wait and see. Again, the chance is pretty slim, but I thought it was definitely worth mentioning, and I have been getting some DMs on Facebook and Instagram about it, some comments, people saying, oh, is it going to snow in the Southeast or the Mid-Atlantic? So I wanted to go ahead and talk about that. Hopefully the people that were mentioning that saw this for sure. Now, we're going to take a look at a Canadian model run from 12Z today, so it just came out like an hour ago, and you can see this is what it had for the northeastern United States. It had a low pressure system just offshore. It's only a 1009 millibar low pressure system, so it's nothing crazy by any means, but it could certainly be more intense than this. But the timing and the placement is almost perfect for the full potential that this one has. You can see it's there by the 14th, and bringing New England moderate to heavy snowfall, but it really switches over to rain towards the tail end. So we'll have to wait and see with this one. This one is rather far out, but I'm sure if it does end up panning out, we will have multiple videos on this one. So I just wanted to mention that to you guys, that this could be a future video topic that we're talking about, is this next big winter storm. Somewhere around the 12th through the 15th, towards the tail end of next week. It's really far out, so a lot can change with this one. Just definitely felt like it was worth mentioning, but it certainly could drop a good 3 to 6 inches in a minor type scenario here for the northeastern United States. But in a major one, I could see this one being a 12-inch plus snowstorm if it lived up to its full potential that I am seeing here for sure. Now here's the GFS run from yesterday. Again, it's not showing it anymore, but I just wanted to show that it does have the storm. It just looks way less major, and it has a second low pressure system behind it that ends up being rain. So the GFS certainly was a lot more messy with it, but the Canadian model, what it's showing today, is certainly the most exciting outlook we've seen so far for this storm. Anyway, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.